started. So welcome to today's Training Tuesday session in our OSI series of trainings for RSOs. So today we're going to be discussing virtual engagement and event planning. So this is going to give you an overview of some tips and resources that your organization should be considering when trying to engage people virtually, and also a couple other, or an opportunity for y'all to talk to each other a little bit about what you may be doing, just so that you can start getting ideas from each other as well. So just some formalities out of the way. Just so everybody knows, this presentation is being recorded and will be shared with everybody probably by tomorrow, with the links to the PowerPoint as well as some additional resources. So with that said, my name is Chris Holguin. I'm an associate director in the office, and I just want to take you through the agenda really quick. So the welcome, which we're doing right now, and then we're going to transition into a stop and think activity that is that opportunity to connect with each other to see what you all are doing. Then we're going to go into virtual event planning and what that looks like, and again, some processes that might help you plan as you are going throughout the semester. Then we'll briefly talk about the co-curricular extravaganza, which you all got information for not too long ago. So there is a member of PKS that will be able to speak to that and answer any questions as well. And then the closing. So overall, we probably won't be taking the full hour of your time, but we'll get to this presentation and then offer a opportunity for you to ask some questions if you have, either of Patrick and myself or of anybody in attendance as well. But yeah, so with that said, I will transition it over to Patrick.
Thanks, Chris. So as Chris said, my name is Patrick. For those of you that I have not met, I'm an assistant director in the Office of Student Involvement. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm going to be helping out with the presentation today. So the first thing that we're going to do is some sort of kind of like reflection to kind of see where you all are at with your event planning and what you've been doing so far. So hoping that this is a little bit interactive between one another. I know everyone is in different spaces, so no problem if you can't, but if you're able to, would love for you to turn on your camera so we can kind of see who's in our Zoom room, to kind of get to see some faces if you can. If not, again, no problem. Here's some people. Awesome. So first question that we're going to ask, and maybe if you want to write responses in the chat, what are some of the events that your organization would traditionally hold in a year? So thinking of your student organization, what are those events that come to mind really quickly for you that you think of? And again, feel free to write them in the chat, or if someone wants to speak, we can do that also. Ice climbing, Mount St. Jams, 100 Days Ball, dance socials, bake sales, farmers market, outdoor practices, fundraiser for the Nativity School. We did build days for Habitat, vagina monologues, weekly publications, workshop. Awesome. So I imagine that the events that you do probably relate to the purpose of your organization, right? Like the things that you're doing kind of relate to your overall mission or purpose of your group. So taking a step back from the actual events that you all work really hard on each year and your organization puts on, try to think of what is the mission of your organization. When you think of your student organization, you probably think of your events first, but take a step back and kind of bigger picture. What is the purpose of your organization? So take a minute to think about that. And then again, would love for people to, if you want to take yourself off mute, you can share, or if you want to write in the chat, but what is the mission of your organization? What's the purpose of why you put on the 100 Days Ball, for example?
I know for us in Purple Key, we're all about trying to build community and spirit within the campus, and just doing whatever we can to, you know, provide opportunities for students to get together and meet new people.
Elena, I see that you wrote physical activity and community. It's the purpose. Anyone else want to write in the chat or take themselves off mute? Helping students get involved in making changes in sustainability, inclusive competitive ski to raise awareness about pediatric oncology and raise funds for treatment and research, promoting awareness for autism and fundraising for local and national organizations of a similar mission. Awesome. So again, keep these in mind as we're talking today and as you're connecting with one another, music appreciation and ability to try out new things. So again, keep these in mind as we're kind of connecting with one another, the mission of your organization or the purpose of your organization and why, the why of what you do. Because again, the events and programs that you do probably drive your mission and your purpose, right? They kind of go back with one another. And this year, because of some of the different things that are going on in the world, at the college, needing to be creative in a different way to have new events during this remote learning period that we're still able to pull from your mission and purpose of your organization. Some of these events might just be kind of transferred to a virtual format when they would have been happening in person, but also you might need to get creative in doing something new that still relates to your mission because you're not able to do the same event or program in a virtual format. So we're hoping that today we have some time to be able to connect with others. So at this point, we are going to move to breakout rooms. As I get those set up, Chris, would you mind reading off the questions that we're going to ask people to talk about?
Yes. So you won't be in these breakout rooms for too long. It's just an opportunity for you to be able to connect with each other, because we have heard from a couple of the RSO leaders that they would love to talk to other RSO leaders to see what they're doing, right? Based on these questions that Patrick was asking in terms of what have you been doing or what have you traditionally done, and kind of like, are there ways that you're maybe thinking about doing things that you've already tried? Maybe there's a trial and error type of thing, and really an opportunity for y'all to share a little bit about that. If you don't have as much to share, that's completely all right too. I would encourage you to kind of ask that question of maybe more of like, what have you been thinking? So with some of this, some questions to consider while you're in the breakout room is, what would your RSO normally be doing? What are you considering now? And then what ideas do you have? Or how are you doing these things? So again, Patrick, I'll leave you to describing any other things that maybe I left out, but that's the general sense.
Awesome. So I just created the breakout rooms. You should be able to join them. I just also added the questions in the chat, and we will call you back in a few minutes. It looks like we have everybody back. So hopefully that was helpful in connecting with other students on the call. Before we kind of move on, we would love to hear some of the conversation. So if you're willing to share kind of what you talked about, or maybe what new idea you have, or maybe a challenge that you're experiencing in your small group, if you're willing to share that for the larger group now, that would be great. So if you're willing to share, if you could put an X in the chat, and then I'd be able to call on you. Just there's a lot of us on the call that if we just take ourselves on mute, it might be difficult too. Awesome. Megan, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I was in a breakout room with Andrew, who's here for Ballroom Dance and Asia Club. And we were both talking about like a big challenge in general is just the whole idea of Zoom fatigue with like these meetings, since like obviously we have to conduct all our meetings through Zoom. And even in like the past few weeks when I've been like just meeting with like other members of eBoard just to like gather ideas and like organize, like it's been so hard. Like creative writing, we have a meeting tonight and we were all just like, okay, like we're making this 30 minutes and then that's it. Like we cannot be on our computers for that long. So that's definitely going to be a challenge, like a way to engage while like accepting like Zoom fatigue is a thing.
Absolutely. I mean, everything in life right now is on Zoom, whether that's class, work. Sometimes people are interacting with their families over Zoom. Like everything is on Zoom. So trying to make the most of the time that we have together on as RSOs and connecting with your general members, but also being mindful that some people just might not want to connect in Zoom. So what are some of the other opportunities? Connor, go ahead.
Hi there. So I was in a breakout room with Isabel and Jasmine, and Megan, this kind of goes off your point with Zoom fatigue. RSO is trying to determine whether or not to continue to meet weekly like you would on campus, or to kind of go to a bi-weekly schedule. And it kind of stinks that you would have to go to a bi-weekly schedule, but the Zoom fatigue is real enough where it's like maybe it would be more beneficial to the conversations that you will be having to meet bi-weekly rather than weekly.
So Connor, I hear you kind of saying like maybe doing some things a little bit differently than you normally would be doing
Right.
regular semester to try to meet the needs, still function as an RSO, but still make the most of the time that you have. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else want to share? Not seeing anything else in the chat, so not a problem. But again, as we kind of share more information throughout today's presentation, just trying to continue thinking through what opportunities there are for trying to be new and creative, and just know that we'll walk through this, but that the Office of Student Involvement is here to help you in trying to be creative, and we know that it's not easy times to try to be doing this, so we're here to help and support you, and we want to be able to see you all still be creative and put on successful events and programs, even in a virtual format. I'm going to reshare my screen and turn it back over to Chris.
So part of what Patrick was just talking about in terms of like, we're here to help you is, as we mentioned before, OSI has event planners assigned to each RSO. And I want to just give you a brief overview of what the role of the event planner is right now during this fall semester, like while everybody is remote, and kind of the role that the event planner will play. So your event planner will help you think through your event logistics. They will provide advice for event ideas and on different platforms. Being able to provide advice on creativity for the event and how to market it. Being able to connect you with other organizations to collaborate with. So I think this collaboration piece is huge, like being able to collaborate with either other RSOs or other campus organizations that might have similar interests, and being able to put on an event together versus different events that might meet the same need. But again, thinking through that Zoom fatigue again, why duplicate efforts when you can put kind of like all your eggs in one basket, at least for right now, you know? And then just being able to make sure to be communicating with your event planner about like what your RSO is doing, because again, there are a lot of resources that we can either offer, talk through, etc., so that you and your organization don't feel like it's like you just need to figure it out. And I think that's the biggest point that I want to highlight in terms of the role of the event planner. And then going into the next slide, I think Megan and Connor's points are highlighted in this. So when we're thinking about consistency of your programming or your meetings, we heard Megan and Connor talk about how you might be used to your RSO having either meetings weekly, programs maybe 2 times a week or 4 times a month, like what have you. I think that looks a little bit different, and I think a lot of organizations are starting to realize that as the semester is starting, right? Like y'all's schedule right now looks very different than it did a year ago. I believe most schedules go from anywhere from 9 to 9. And that's everybody on the organization probably has a different schedule, and that's not accounting for whatever life things that you need to deal with as well, right? So as Connor mentioned, some things in terms of keeping in mind, like meetings, being able to switch to maybe a bi-weekly schedule might be better. And then the programming aspect of it, I think that's something to consider as well. I know that the goal is of a lot of organizations is to recruit new people, but also offer a variety of programs to keep people engaged and etc. But I do think that being able to take care of yourself first should be a priority. So thinking about when programming makes sense. Does it make sense for your organization to host something bi-weekly or maybe once or twice a month? Really asking that question, not just of yourself, but of your e-board. And I think that point is the biggest thing I want to highlight. It's in a normal world, it's very easy for a few members of the e-board thinking that they need to do everything. And in a virtual world, I think that is also pretty high, thinking that one or two people need to do everything. I don't think that's the case. Like, I think you need to be able to talk to your e-board about what you all want to do and put a plan forth. So some of the things to keep in mind are students' class schedules, time zones. So right, people on the East Coast, West Coast, the time difference. So when you're scheduling an event, Zoom fatigue, which we had talked about as well. So the length of your program, and then just being able to track your attendance. Because if you're doing a program weekly and you're seeing that not many people are attending, maybe it is that conversation that maybe you shift to a bi-weekly program instead. These are the things that your event planner will help you or will help you get through in terms of being able to talk through this and create a plan for it. The length of the program is one of those things that I will say, and you'll see reflected in some of the sessions that we're doing with you all, is I have like a rule of like not making anything more than 50 minutes on Zoom, just because I just personally think that that's kind of like a key time to keep people engaged and etc. I just want you to think about that. But again, that's the type of stuff that you want to determine with your event planner as well. Next, I just want to talk a little bit about the budget, which we went over last week a little bit, right? So every RSO knows that they need to apply to fund, to get funds from SGA through the RSO request for funds form. Again, this can be located in a previous email that we sent out, as well as on here. You can see the link to access for that form. But one of the things I want to highlight is potential ideas of what you might be requesting funds for. So think about if you're doing some type of program and you are opening this up, right, to general members, like anybody a part of the HC community, maybe think about like electronic, like, or e-gift cards, things that you can just email somebody if they, I don't know, if you host a trivia night and they win trivia, right? Something like that, not as expensive as something else. And then potentially looking into some vendor virtual programs that might exist out there. Again, not necessarily saying like, if you find one, it'll necessarily be automatically approved, but more so like if there is, I don't know, a vendor might be offering like a bingo service, for example, that your organization might want to host. Maybe that's something you apply for and then are able to pay for that service and host that event. Again, in that specific instance, I would suggest collaborating. Maybe it's 3 organizations that are hosting a bingo night and giving these prizes away. So just trying to think through that creativity a little bit more. Pat?
There's something I just wanted to add too is that you may know this, but in a normal year, OSI would be doing their like Open After Dark series on Saturday nights, typically from like 9 to 11 that we run like programming every Saturday night. So we're trying to be creative in how we're doing that this semester, given it's a virtual format. And so we're thinking of doing programming on like Thursday nights throughout some of the fall semesters. So if you can also consider approaching OSI, like of course you would kind of connect with your event planner as far as like we're thinking of doing this idea, but there may be an opportunity to collaborate with OSI as well for a program. If you're, have this idea, but you're not sure if you can completely implement it on your own as an RSO. So as you're thinking of collaboration, also consider OSI to connect with us to see what maybe we can help make happen together.
And now I want to transition into a little bit more about just concrete things for like virtual programming. So just to give you a little bit of background, as I'm sure a lot of you know, like there's different ways to program, right? Like you have the opportunity to live stream a program. You have the opportunity to provide people with content to view on their own, and then, you know, like pick a date for a session and then be able to discuss, right? So there's really two, not the only ways, but two really like highlighted ways that you'll kind of see throughout. So live streaming, it's like I see this as a really good opportunity to engage an audience, right? Like live through like chat or different activities. And you also will catch people that are just scrolling through, whether it's on like Facebook or wherever you're advertising, and direct you to this live stream. And then the programming where you provide content and say like, hey, watch this movie on your own, or read this book on your own, or I don't know, like provide something and then be able to have a discussion on it. That is also another way to do some of your programming. But with this said, I did want to highlight some steps and provide some concrete step-by-step process on like how to go about setting up a virtual event, especially through Zoom. It could be applied to other platforms as well. Again, this is all going to be emailed out to you. So the first thing that you want to do is pick a date for your event or meeting. And then you want to be able to connect with your OSI event planner to talk through the following things, but also, again, as a bouncing board as well for your ideas. So you want to be able to schedule your event or meeting on Zoom or on any other platform that you might be doing or using. You want to be able to create a registration form. This helps secure your event so that only the people that register for your event are attending your event. So in this form, you can let people know that once you register, you'll get a Zoom link, you know, the day of or the day before with the link so that they can access the event. Then you want to be able to create your graphic and include all the event details, the registration link, any other information that you think is crucial. For those of you that might not know, Canva is a great resource for graphics. You can create a free account and you can use that to make your graphics. You definitely want to be able to send your event details to co-announce. Again, that's probably one of the main ways to reach the whole campus community, but especially the incoming first year class, which I know is kind of a priority for a lot of organizations in terms of recruitment. So any meeting, event that you have, please make sure to send the event details to co-announce by Fridays at noon so that it could be included in the Monday newsletter. And then after you do all these things, you want to make sure you have a marketing plan for social media, as that's another platform that will be helpful to you. If your organization does not have a social media account, I do encourage looking into that, as we have seen a couple new accounts pop up, especially on Instagram, and in connecting with not just your peers, but the wider audience. And really quickly about social media, if your organization is posting something, if you want OSI to kind of just post that on our story as well, again, to get it out to more people, just make sure you tag us when you post a story or the post, just so we can feature it, and that way you get extra advertisement. I would suggest doing that as well with other departments that might kind of like fit within the event that you're hosting as well. As again, more advertisement of your event will turn out better attendance. Next slide. Cool. So a couple other features which I shared before were being able to secure your event is just being able to enable your waiting room, the registration for the event, and then you want to be able to have somebody assigned kind of to monitor the text stuff for Zoom. So whether it's letting people in through the waiting room, recording, like anything that falls under that, just so that the person that's hosting and kind of welcoming everybody, that's all they have to worry about, and not necessarily paying attention to the logistical stuff of it. So again, for example, like right now I'm the one speaking, but Patrick's kind of like doing the passing of the slides, like letting people in through the waiting room, pressing record, et cetera, et cetera. You go to the next one. So, and then your day of event program on Zoom checklist. Again, this is a rough draft of like what we have done in the past and something that your event planner can work with you on as well. But you want to be able to create an agenda and be able to create a nice flow through your event, right? So at the beginning, kind of have somebody welcome everybody, and then, you know, every other role that you can that you want to have for your event. You want to be able to assign somebody who's going to be the host, and I'm not talking about just on Zoom, but more so like somebody who is going to take charge in terms of hosting the whole session, being able to talk about that, engaging people, like who that's going to be. Assign a Zoom tech person. So as I just mentioned, somebody just looking over kind of like the logistics, being able to look at the chat and kind of like deal with that so that everybody kind of has their own role will be important. If you're screen sharing, definitely have your materials prepared. So if you're screen sharing a video, if you're screen sharing, I don't know, like a certain, like a board game, something like that, just make sure you have all that pulled up before the session begins. And then if you're live streaming, make sure that whoever is doing that, so the host, has a strong internet connection and is located in a quiet space. So with live streaming, that is super important because when you're live streaming, it's not only picking up whatever is on the screen, but it's any sound that is around you as well. And with the internet connection, same thing. Like if the internet connection is a little spotty, there might be a chance that the live stream might just fail or like fall midstream. So just things to look out for. And then in your closing, just making sure that you offer ways to connect with your RSO afterwards, right? So whether that's through social media, the email, future events, again, any opportunity that you have to connect with your RSO. One last thing before I stop talking is, I know there have been some organizations that have been asking about like movie screenings. So just want to set some things clear in terms of like what is legal and what's not legal. So Netflix watch parties. Netflix is one of the only platforms that I know of that has a specific extension so that people can watch movies together. But the thing that differentiates Netflix with other platforms is Netflix requires you to have a Netflix account to be able to watch or participate in this Netflix watch party. So the one thing that I do want to highlight is that you as an organization or person should not be streaming movies and or shows as part of your organization's events and screen sharing it through like Zoom or to a larger audience. So essentially that's copyright infringement, or not essentially, it is copyright infringement. So just for example, like you can't stream a movie from like Hulu, Disney, Disney Plus, Apple TV, etc. via Zoom for an event because you or your organization or the college does not own the rights to these movies / series. One thing I do want to say is typically the way movies work is you have to purchase the rights in order to be able to show it. And we have a company that we work with to do that when we screen movies on campus. So they are offering that virtually. And I'd say this knowing that every organization's budget is limited. If you are interested in screening a movie or purchasing rights to a movie or series, please contact your event planner to see how our office can support your organization with that, and how we can work on the funding part for that. So I just wanted to make sure I highlighted this because I don't want anybody getting in trouble, as this, again, because of copyright infringement, looking out for you as a student, your organization, and then the college as well. So with that said, that's it for me. If we're going to offer some opportunity for questions at the end. So if you have questions, I'll just hold that until after we get through co-curricular. And then, yeah, so I will pass it over to Pat.
So hopefully you know by now that the co-curricular extravaganza will be on Thursday, September 24th, beginning at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. RSOs that are looking to host a table, a virtual table or a virtual booth are required to register by Monday, September 21st. So just keep that in mind. And Matt, one of the co-chairs of the Purple Key Society, is here to explain more about what the event will look like. So I'll turn it over to you.
Hey guys, I'm Matt. It's nice to see you all today. One important thing before I start talking about the event itself and how it's going to look. The form's pretty short, doesn't take that long to fill out. What we're basically asking for is like a description of your club and some pictures, just so we can have something to show students and get them interested in your club and making sure that they know they want to go to your booth at the event. So it'll take place from around 6:30. Actual presentations by clubs are planned to be from 7 to 9:40. Now you won't have to be on that entire time. We've split it up into, I believe, 4 different time intervals. So you will only need to have someone on your booth for about 40 minutes, I believe. You're more than welcome to stay on the entire time, but 40 minutes seems pretty sufficient. That gives you around time to do 2 15-minute presentations as people are popping in and out of the group. So the way this is going to work is we're going to start a Zoom call at 6:30 with a link that provides people access to all of the different Zoom links for the various clubs. And depending on the time interval, they can only go to certain clubs. This just allows it so that each organization gets a set amount of time and that no one gets overwhelmed with that Zoom fatigue, really. Soon after everyone fills out the form, remember, fill it out by Monday, please. We'll have some social media templates that we're currently working on that'll just help your group advertise the event, not only for yourselves, but for us as an organization, and to just get word out to the various clubs. We're also sending out postcards to freshmen and sophomore students, just so that that main group of students have more interest and are able to attend. So we hope to see as many of you guys there as possible. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. So just again, a reminder, please complete the form which was shared over email to have your RSO registered, so that way you're all set to participate, and please submit that by Monday, September 21st, but honestly, the sooner the better. So this is just kind of, again, an overview of who works in our office. Our emails are here, our social media, Facebook, and our office email account is here, so please reach out to us if you have any questions or need anything related to your RSO.
And yeah, in closing too, when we send these slides out, you'll see following like on this question slide, it will be slides with all your event planners, just in case you need to see who that is. But yeah, so being mindful of everybody's time, I want to be able to open the floor to any questions that you may have. Again, for the group, you can ask Pat and myself, and then if you have specific questions, also feel free to like stay after. Let y'all go. So, are there any questions that anybody has that you think the group may benefit from hearing? Okay. So if you, again, just reiterating, if you do have questions, please reach out to either Pat, myself, or your event planner, and we will be able to provide you with the answer. Still leaving the option out there if anybody wants to stick around. If you have specific questions, about your organization, feel free to do so. But if not, thank you all so much for attending today. And please be on the lookout for any future communications from our office. And just know we're here to support you throughout the semester. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.